monsters, you guys. So, like, right out of the gate, what captured the imagination? What do you guys think? The living statue? You know, the living statue is one of the coolest parts, and Jason talked a little bit during the Kickstarter campaign about how there's more than one type of living statue, and here he's showing the cards for it. So the living statue comes in many forms. There's actually a metal living statue, a stone living statue, and a wood living statue, and each one, it actually modifies the stats and abilities. Here, Jason.
Yeah. And so it creates some interesting combos because the wood statue is a little faster because he's not burdened by the heavy stone or the metal, but he's more susceptible to fire attacks. So if you've got a sorceress with some elemental fire magic, you're going to be better off against the wooden statues. If you run into a stone statue, of course, he's immune to fire attacks. So basically the elemental fire magic will just bounce right off him and you'll need to go to some other, wind magic or earth magic or something, or just traditional attacks. But you can see he's a pretty giant, imposing figure. One of his main features is that he actually can step over other models, so he can move through other models. Also, he has a grab attack, so that when he attacks you, he has a chance to try to grab onto you and then throw you into other heroes that are nearby to try to damage both of you. Alright, so there's a lot of monsters, so I'm not going to spend too much time on each one, but I will say that having the different types of material that the statue's made of definitely gives a lot of replayability and flavor just to this one epic enemy that you'll run into. So I might as well...
I was just going to say, this also continues the theme that we wanted to put out in Shadows of Brimstone, where we're like, right from the offset, we want different sizes of enemies. We want to have groupings of smaller guys, and then some like pretty meaty guys, and then at least one just epic end boss kind of guy. And we did that with the Goliath and the Harbinger, and so the living statue is our one in the core set.
Yes. Although not to be outdone is the Hariyanago, who is also can be an epic threat, or you can encounter her as a regular threat, just as almost a mini boss. And the Hariyanago is pretty cool because she basically has animated hair with barbs on the end, and it holds her aloft in the air as she floats along, lashing out and grabbing people and snaring them in her animated hair. And the model for her turned out really cool. You can see the way she's floating on her hair. And much like the living statue, there's actually 3 different versions of the Hariyanago as well. You can run into the traditional Hariyanago, the Yuki Onna, which is the snow woman, who can create a blizzard and has an icy kiss. You can also run into the Futakuchi Onna, which is, she basically has animated hair that grabs people and pulls them in, and she's got a giant mouth on the back of her head that takes big bites out of you when she gets you close enough.
Awesome! I love it. You're doing those guys. Those are my favorites.
So it definitely gets a lot of cool variability in those 2 potential epic threats and stuff that you can fight during any given adventure. All right.
Is there a possibility you guys might sell the statue and her separate so people could paint up multiple versions of them?
There is a possibility of that. We'll have to see how it goes, but I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to do that. Okay, so other enemies we have from the core set here are the Tengu. These guys are pretty cool. The Tengu are some of the coolest enemy models I think we've ever done, with their giant wings, and they're basically myth enemies that are demon swordsmen. And so they fly around and they land behind the heroes and they lash out with their katanas. And one of their cool abilities is that they are sword masters, so all of their hit-to-hit rolls of 6+ do double damage. They also have parry, which means that whenever a hero rolls a 1 to hit while you're adjacent to Tengu, they make you lose one of your other successful hits, your highest other successful hit that you rolled. So if you roll your attack and you roll a 6, a 5, and a 1, they basically parry your 1 and get rid of your 6. And that's actually for each Tengu that's next to you. So if you're surrounded by 3 Tengu and you roll a 1, a 5, and a 6, that one that you roll is going to be parried by all 3 Tengu to get rid of your 3, in this case 2 hits. And any hits that you don't have left to get rid of, they actually do a free hit of their own to you. So if you get surrounded by Tengu, you want to try to get out of there as quick as possible and get so you're only next to maybe one of them to attack them. Because if they surround you, they can all work together to parry your attacks and do you in pretty quick. Yeah, they're pretty high initiative and they're pretty evil. So we also have the acidic tentacles, which I can put down here. And the acidic tentacles are kind of similar to the regular tentacles in the original Shadows of Brimstone. However, they have the smash, just like the original tentacles did, where anytime they roll a 6, it ignores defense and just kind of smashes you. But in addition to that, they also have the ability to spit acid. At the start of a turn, if there's no heroes next to them, they actually can spit acid. And if it hits and you fail your defense, you actually get a bleeding marker. So bleeding markers are something that was first introduced in the Derelict Ship, I believe, but they've appeared in a few different expansions now. And a bleeding marker is basically a -3 health marker. So while you have it, it just reduces your health by -3, but it can't be healed by traditional means. The only way to get rid of a bleeding marker generally is to use a grit to get rid of a bleeding marker. So the tentacles can be pretty evil because if they're spitting at you left and right, you want to close the distance so that you can prevent them from spitting, so you're not getting bleeding markers all over you. That'll be more long-lasting than normal wounds. And you can see that they're in a couple of cool poses with drippy acid coming out of their lamprey style mouths. That's the acid they spit at you, of course, and it is very drippy. All right, so we also have the Dishonored Dead, which are basically undead samurai with tattered armor. And the Dishonored Dead are pretty cool. The models turned out really great for these guys because you can see... Oh, I'm not sure I got anything. Oh, there. You can see that they actually have their skeletal faces and their tattered armor and all of the intricate detail in their samurai armor. And the Dishonored Dead in-game are pretty cool because they actually do have armor that can shrug off some of your attacks, but also, when you kill them, they fall down as a corpse token. They don't use corpse piles like the Hungry Dead in Shadows of Brimstone. Instead, they fall down as a corpse token, and it stays there on the board. And as long as there's enemies or heroes on that map tile during a fight, they can potentially stand back up and rejoin the fight as a new Dishonored Dead. And so you basically need to try to take them all down so that all of them are down at the same time. Otherwise, they might keep standing up. And of course, there are some ways to get rid of corpse tokens, like you might expect. But it also gives us a lot of opportunities with encounters and things of that nature to put corpse tokens onto map tiles so that it doesn't mean anything unless a fight breaks out there, and then suddenly the corpses also start rising up as Dishonored Dead to fight you. And these guys also appear in the Belly of the Beast as Devoured Dead. And the lore there is that one of the clans, the samurai clans, when portals started opening up to the Belly of the Beast, they were jealous of all the darkstone that all of the other samurai clans had gotten to before them, and so they wanted to be the first ones through the portal. So they sent through entire armies of samurai through the portal because they didn't even know where it went, but they wanted to be the first one there. And of course, it was the Belly of the Beast, which is not necessarily the best place to just march a bunch of people in. So they were all devoured and consumed by the Belly of the Beast, and now when they rise back up, they're actually a little bit different than your normal Devoured Dead. Let's see if I can find their card here. Well, it's in there, I assure you. There it is. Devoured Dead. They have the Black Hunger, which is they gain +1 combat for every 2 Darkstone, including icons on items that their target currently has. So basically they're hungry for Darkstone. They've been searching for it in the Belly of the Beast, and they never found it. So now they're desperate for it. So even though they're dead, they come back looking for Darkstone.
How does the Belly of the Beast use Darkstone? Each world has had a different use or a different way Darkstone is affecting the world. How does Darkstone affect the Belly of the Beast?
Yeah, so the Belly of the Beast in the, the question was, every world uses Darkstone in a different way, and how does the Belly of the Beast use Darkstone? Well, Darkstone is actually found in a number of different places in the Belly of the Beast. You can find chunks of it in cysts in the wall, where it's basically been embedded. But one of the general themes is that the beast feeds on Darkstone, so it consumes it and absorbs it and tries to break it down. And any chunks that are too dense for it get left stuck in the walls or are consumed by creatures like the Bone Eaters that walk around the halls of the Belly of the Beast, eating anything too dense for the acids of the beast to consume. But as far as people can tell, the beast feeds on Darkstone. All right, so the next enemy we have here, this is the last major enemy from the core set. It is the Oni, which, as mythological lore says, are basically giant Japanese ogres. And you can see he's got his big club there and his horns and large teeth. And the Oni is a pretty tough character to run into. He's the large size enemy, and not only does he cause terror, he also can bash people with his club. So anybody that takes damage from his combat attacks has a chance of getting knocked across the room and flying straight back, and any wall or other hero they encounter might also take damage. So he's a kind of dynamic enemy type because he'll be bashing your guys around the halls, and you need to kind of avoid his club long enough to get up and try to take him down. The last thing that does not have a miniature in the game, but has little counters to represent it, are the acid blobs. These are basically natural defenders in the belly of the beast, and they come out to try to dissolve the heroes. They're a very different type of enemy. They're kind of like the Targa pylons, except they move around, and they actually just are made of acid. So if they get even close to you, they'll just start dissolving you. And so they do automatic damage to every hero adjacent to them at the end of their move. So you basically need to try to get away from them and try to kill them as quick as you can, because if you don't, they'll start devouring you and potentially even devouring your stuff with acid. There are minis coming for those in the Kickstarter. Yes, there are going to be plastic acid blobs. Originally, the core set just has little round tokens for them, but everybody that was part of the Kickstarter, I believe it was a basic stretch goal, so everybody's going to get, part of the Kickstarter will get miniatures for the acid blobs.
So most Outworlds have two variants from earlier monsters. You mentioned the Dishonored Dead variant.
Yeah, the Devoured Dead. The other variant one here, and you can see that the acid blobs have their own Belly of the Beast cards. There's also, not to completely distract from your question, but there's also a variant called Burst Blobs from the Temple of Shadows that adds a second type of acid blobs. And they tend to explode when you kill them, so they shower everything with acid, which is always good. So the other one here is the Parasitic Tentacles, which is an alternate version of the Acidic Tentacles. And the Parasitic Tentacles basically have, they're infected. They've got infection. And it says, for each smash hit done to a hero, melee hit rolls of 6, that hero also takes 1 corruption hit. So they basically infect you when they smash you.
Cool.
Okay, so that gives a pretty good idea of the enemies that come in the core set. We also have here... Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to cut Jason off, but I also need to make sure we're going to have enough time for people to play.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can go through every single one.
All right.
But are there others that you guys are super excited about and we can hit one of those?
Why don't I name the other enemies?
All right.
So I'll just name the other enemies and give you the elevator pitch. So the Bone Eaters are pretty cool. They basically travel around the belly of the beast and they consume anything that's too dense or hard for the beast itself to devour with its acid. And so they'll gnaw on things, or little bits of armor, or guns, or bones. And they're actually blind, and so they kind of just stumble around in the dark inside the belly of the beast. But they use a cool mechanic of noise markers. So it's got a list of things where anytime you as a hero do one of the actions on its list, you get a noise marker, and they choose targets by whoever has the most noise markers, and they also get plus damage based on how many noise markers you have. So basically it encourages you to move slowly, tiptoe around them, get into a good position, and then strike. Because the more noise you make, the more deadly they are as they turn and twist, trying to find you, to feed on you, to bite you. The Akaname are a mythological demon enemy, and they basically, the Akaname are the bathroom licker. That's the traditional legend of them. And they basically are a demon that can leap around, and they've got long barbed tongues. And in traditional Japanese mythology, if you don't clean your bathroom well enough, it'll attract Akaname, and they'll come in and lick your bathroom clean, and then of course wait for you to attack you in the night when you stumble in, unsuspecting. Should have cleaned your bathroom.
My bathroom seems much cleaner than normal. Oh no!
So that is the Akaname. In game they can leap, and they actually get extra combat if they have to leap to reach you, and so closing in on them faster is good. The next one here is the Chochino Bake, animated lanterns. And these guys basically are little explosive bombs. And so they'll run towards you and lick you with their giant demon tongue. And when you kill them, they have a tendency to just blow up. and that can actually chain reaction with other lanterns, so they might blow up in succession. And when they blow up, it's more or less like a dynamite going off next to you. So it can be pretty deadly. You want to try to get away from them, kill them with any ranged attacks you might have, or throw explosives to try to chain reaction and set them all off. We also have here the Takobake Spearman. That's in the lore, that is the first samurai house to find the Darkstone after the giant meteor crashed, and they immediately started using it to make armor and weapons out of, and that's where you get the Shogun, the fallen Shogun. He's the head of the Takobake clan. And so the Takobake Spearmen are basically mutant samurai or mutant spearmen, and they're actually allowed to attack up to 3 spaces away. So they'll run around and just attack you right over other enemies and get to you when you don't expect. Oh, I'm sorry. Takobake Spearmen. They're pretty cool. You can see their big tentacle faces, and they've got Darkstone woven into their armor, which makes them extra tough and allows them to regenerate. And there's a few different types of Takobake guys in the Kickstarter, but I was only able to bring along one of them so far. So some of the other Belly of the Beast enemies we have are the Flesh Mites. They basically crawl around inside the belly of the beast, and they have hardened shells that are razor sharp. So when you stand next to them, just being next to one of these guys makes you -1 to your defense rolls, because of the razor sharp shell will cut you if you're not careful. They also have hard shells, so it makes them immune to critical hits. And they have abrasive tongues, which means they're to rolls of 6 or +2 damage. Alright, so the next one here is the Skin Crawler. And the Skin Crawler comes in a group of 3 large enemies. You can see they're stretching mucus because they basically unfold out from the floor, much like Scott's arm. And they basically are all about striking and trying to devour you whole. So to represent that in game, they basically only have 1 combat, but it's damage 10. So if they hit you with that 1 combat, you could be in serious trouble. And not to...
I should just point out, the sumo can take 2 of those and be fine.
The saloon girl can only take 1 and she's dead.
Well, the sumo is 2 bites. I mean, come on.
2-bite sumo.
Yeah. The other thing that's kind of fun about the Skin Crawlers is that they're a parasitic leech, and it says the enemy gains... It's fun.
That is fun.
The enemy gains +1 combat for each remains in play encounter, including passage encounters, affecting the map tile that it's currently on. So when you find a new room, you might find some encounters there that affect that tile, or passage encounters that affect all adjacent tiles to it, and suddenly the Skin Crawlers get even tougher. So you need to basically be careful to lure them away from places where there are other effects like corrosive mist or clouds of noxious gas and that kind of thing. So we also have here the Thunder Warriors, which basically ride lightning down from the heavens and can shoot lightning at people. They also create windstorms that make it harder for everyone to move around. And just generally, they're kind of cool demigod, kind of mythological enemies that you can fight. And the figures for these guys turned out great. They've actually got arcing lightning coming out of their hands. They've got their basket hats, and you can see that they're no normal human. I mean, they're giants of people, and they've got flowing robes to represent all of the wind and the fury that they bring with them when they come down to attack you. And these guys actually are servants of the dragon emperor. And so they'll tie in a little bit lore-wise with him, Shoryu the dragon. All right, so the last one I have here to show, again, it just has the prototype concept artwork for him on there, because the artwork's not on there. But basically the clan ninja warriors are basically really good fighters. They come in 2 different poses. You can see this one here has his kusurigama, which is a ninja weapon. And there's also one that has a sword. They also come with a variety of different hats and masks that you can put on them. This one here has the hat on, so you can basically build out different ninja clans, depending on which ones you want to. This one's pretty cool, the little mask. He's got like a little devil mask that you can put on, a little demon mask. And so you can see that's the same figure I was holding out first, but he looks pretty different when he's got the little demon mask on. So they're good assassins. They can dodge around, move through other models. They can throw shuriken. There's also shadow clans, ninja shadow clans, much like Superman tribes or infamous undead outlaws, where basically you can draw different clans to see which ninja shadow clan they're from when they attack you. All right, so I think that covers all of the enemies that I've brought.
So I think just to, again, we got to get to the gaming. So why don't I'm going to ask you about a couple of things just to touch on stuff so people don't feel like it's missing. Now, are there darkness cards like there might be in Shadows of Brimstone? Well, there are.
Yes.
Let's draw one. What do you got?
So,
Hit us with one.
Sure, here's one right here. So this is In Darkness's Shadow. It says draw a Growing Dread card and add it to the stack for each clue icon that has been revealed so far during this adventure. And of course, all the Darkness cards have new artwork, which is Forbidden Fortress themed. They're all brand new Darkness cards, so new evil stuff that the game can do to your heroes. You've also got things like Overpowered, where it remains in play. It says enemies that are large size or bigger now do +1 damage on all of their attacks, or +2 if the heroes are party level 3 or 4, +3 if level 5 or higher. So it actually is a darkness card that scales with how high a level your heroes are. You can see Oni bursting through the wall there to attack the heroes. So there's a whole suite of new darkness cards. No, that was it. Yeah, what's your question?
So now, how do the darkness cards work together with the Shadows of Brimstone? Now, what would you say you wanted to play? Combining the sets or something like that. Now,
So you'll notice that several of the card types.
Repeat the question.
You just asked it.
You'll notice that several of the card types have this little kind of flower icon up in the upper corner. Those are cards that have the same card back as their original Shadows of Brimstone counterparts. And the idea is that you can fully, seamlessly shuffle these into your normal Shadows of Brimstone decks if you like. And they're really easy to just turn over and sort based on which ones have the flower and which ones don't. So you can pull out just the Forbidden Fortress ones if you want to have a more themed adventure. Now, the same goes for the gear cards. They all have that same icon on them, as do the threat cards. So when you run into different threats, you'll see they also have that sort of flower icon on there as well. So it's pretty easy to sort your cards by what came in Forbidden Fortress and what didn't, and if you want to have them as part of a Japanese adventure or just a mixed bag.
All right, now let's talk about gear. I think you showed us the icon, but let's see some real deal gear.
So I'll pull out the most exciting one first. Bandages.
Oh, come on now, come on. Okay, sake. Well, now we're talking. You got some robes. It looks like there's some black powder there. Ooh, a potion. And then you get a lot of the Japanese weapons that you might have seen popularized in ninja movies. And, I see a flintlock pistol as well, so we're going to see some black powder weapons, yes?
Sure.
Now, I believe Jason is now going for some artifacts. Artifact-wise, obviously the stuff gets a little more obscure, but let's grab the dragon ring and talk about that for a second, because you can't ignore the dragon ring. All right, you guys, the dragon ring is a fortress artifact. It's magic and it's a ring. Once per adventure, use 2 grit to transfer any number of wounds from yourself to any mix of other models on your map tile, ignoring defense and armor. The dragon ring's so cool. I have a character with this. In our playtests.
So what artifacts does the Belly of the Beast have?
So what kind of artifacts does it
we have multiple questions at the same time. One sec. Sorry.
Why don't you ask this one first?
Wayne, what was your question? The question is, could the sumo just murder things outright with that? Yes. But can he fit it on his finger? He might have to have it resized. I believe Jason is pulling out now some artifacts from the Belly of the Beast. Now, the Belly of the Beast, it was a challenge to do artifacts for these because, what does that look like when you find something from the insides of some creature, So some of them are very on theme, where you get like a bile sack. And then other ones are things that have been left behind by previous adventurer that have fallen in the Belly of the Beast. What did you want me to read about?
So you'll even find things like the corroded pistol, which is actually an Old West 6-shooter found in the Belly of the Beast that's been eaten away by the different fluids of the beast. And one thing that's pretty cool about the corroded items is they all usually have a lot of extra dice that you get to roll, but some sort of drawback. So the corroded pistol is range 5, shots 4, So imagine if you had 2 of these, that would be an awful lot of shots. And it says, your hits with this gun are -1 damage. So basically you get to do a big fury of dice, but the drawback, because it's corroded, is it doesn't do quite as much damage.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, corroded armor, also pretty cool.
Tell them about the bile sack.
Yeah, the bile sack is a fun one. It's you can see it looks kind of gross, as you would expect a bile sack to look. And the bile sack.
I have to say that while the illustrator Brian Snowdy was working on these, I would bring him in new assignments and stuff, and we'd be talking about it. I'm like, okay, the bile sack is like big and pustules. He's like, what color do you want that? I'm like green with like kind of a mucusy yellow, and like it should really look juicy, like lots of highlights, like it's just wet. And so many times he's working, he'll be like, bull. And that's kind of an overriding thing. If he's not doing that, it's not right. We have to try again.
So actually, one of my favorites here is the psyllium flail, where you basically pull one of these little psyllium nodes off of the side of the beast, a little organic part of its lungs or whatnot. And it says, your +1 agility, it's a hand weapon that takes a single hand, and it says, when you roll a 1 or a 2 for damage on a combat hit, add an extra d6 damage to that hit. So it can be pretty handy to have around, to have the little flail as you're hitting people with your sword. You also whack them with the little juicy psyllium flail that you broke off of the belly of the beast. All right, so I think that more or less does a pretty good overview of stuff. So, are there any other questions that you guys have that you wanna ask? Burning questions about Belly of the Beast stuff? Looks like we have twin questions here. So, go ahead.
What can you tell us about the Treteran hero?
The Treteran Veteran Hero. He says, what can you tell us about the Treteran Veteran Hero? So, some cool things of note with the Treteran Veteran are that you actually have a bunch of different gear that's based on the starting upgrade you choose. So much like, when you choose, well, you're not going to know the assassin. Okay, much like when you... A little bit. So basically, you start with a certain amount of gear, and if depending on which upgrade you choose, you can become somebody who is more prone to mutation, but gets some special gear, or you can become somebody who's more of a frontline soldier, so you specifically get the full coat and helmet, or you can become somebody who's more like a lieutenant type character, so you actually get the saber and all of that. So depending on the upgrade you choose, it kind of guides the path that your Treteran was before you broke away and sort of defected to become a hero. You also get to choose what Treteran house you're from. So, you might be from the Republic of Tarkon, which means you're kind of extra vicious. You're more ruthless than other ones. You might be from the Royal Foundry, so you're more prone to mutation, but you also are better with tech items, things along those lines. And there are also Treteran personal items, much like the Jargono native has personal items specifically from that other world.
So it's probably hard to choose between your children, but who's each of your guys' favorite heroes from both games?
Who are each of our favorite heroes from both the original Shadows of Brimstone and the Forbidden Fortress? So I would say, for me, one of my favorite heroes from the original Shadows of Brimstone is the Cowboy, which when I say surprises a lot of people because they're like, I don't understand, the Cowboy seems kind of generic. But the thing is, the Cowboy always has grit. Exactly, the Cowboy's fantastic. You can giddy up and jump on top of burrowers and giant monsters to ride them around if you choose that level up path. And the lasso's a lot of fun because you can always rope something and try to save your bacon or help other people out. So I really love playing the Cowboy. And in Forbidden Fortress, I would say so far my favorite one to play has probably been the Geisha, actually. The Geisha is a lot of fun, basically just running around knifing people as you go and using the parasol to sort of escape around.
You know what? I think in Forbidden Fortress, probably the Sumo, which I feel a little bad about because not everybody's necessarily going to get it if they weren't part of the Kickstarter, but he is so much fun, and you're just giant. So as you move through, people are just flying out of the way, and he's got those meaty hands, so you're rolling lots of dice, and it's almost impossible to take him down. I mean, it's probably sanity is his Achilles heel. So that's why you need lots of sake, and then you're good to go. Like any true sumo, yes. For the original, you know what? I'm probably still the Bandito. The Bandito is so cool. and like you go and you play other ones, and you have so much fun, but then you always think of the Bandito.
Double pistols or dynamite?
I like double pistols, actually. Yeah. All right. Well, so are there other questions before we get into the game? Anybody else? All right. Well, before we start, I want to. Are you still going?
Still going.
Before we start, I want to officially say thank you guys so much for backing the Kickstarter of the Forbidden Fortress. We're working really hard for you guys to make it like as cool as possible. Our goal is about making it the most fun and entertaining and deep game that you can be playing 30 years from now with your great grandchildren or whatever. I'm just saying, we're trying to make something that is so much replayability and so much fun, you will want to play it forever. That's all I'm saying. And with that, I will say, let's start. Let's play some game.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank